Welcome back to Woodcraft716.com. I'm Mike Weibel, and today we're going head-to-head with the Kreg 720 and the Armor Tool Auto Jig. So I'm looking to make a little space in the shop, and one of these has got to go. So we're going to find out which one is the better one, and that's the one I'm going to keep around and use all the time. Let me just start by saying I like both the 720 and the Auto Jig. I just don't have a need for both of them in my shop at the same time. I'm only using two criteria, and that's going to be the ease of use and how the pocket holes turn out. And that's about it. Those are the things that matter to me most, and I try to run most of my jobs like a production run, so ease of use is going to be just as important as quality. Both the 720 and the Auto Jig have onboard storage for the drill bits, and they also have the adjustment for the collar on board as well. The next thing we'll talk about are the wings, or these little platforms that we have. In my 720 review, I had all kinds of issues mounting the side compartments the way they said in the directions. So I just went ahead and mounted them on my own, which is fine. I made a bigger deal out of it than I should have. So the storage compartments on the side are okay, but the lids come off a lot and I find myself not using it as much as I thought I would. And on the side supports on the Auto Jig, I ran into a different problem. Armor Tool says that you can use a 2x4 and it's the same height as the platform, which it's the same height as the red plastic, it's just not the same height as the black piece in the middle. I just put on some of the padding that I use for my bench cookies, and that brought it up to the same height. Okay, one of the key factors here is how easy it is to set up the collar. The Kreg jig, because they didn't mark the three most common sizes of your material, which would be 1/2 inch, 3/4, and 1.5. They didn't put an ink mark on the guide. They did, however, put some little notches in the side that I tried to highlight with a white pencil, but it doesn't seem to be showing up. You just simply use the key that's on board and loosen the collar and move it to the desired material thickness. Then tighten it up and you're good to go. And for the Armor Tool, you use the material itself to set the depth of the collar, which is really cool and very accurate. If I ran this board through the planer and it turned out to be 1 7/16 inches, then I couldn't really set my collar on the Kreg jig. But with the Auto Jig, you put your material in, clamp it, and then lock the collar down. So no matter what the thickness is of your board, you're always guaranteed to get the right depth on your collar. That's definitely a bonus. It also tells you what size material you're using and what screw to use. To me, that's really not too important, because like I said, if you had an off-cut size of wood, it's not going to register on here anyways. But your collar will be set for the right dimension. Now we'll just take a closer look at the guide blocks. Armor Tool's Auto Jig is all steel and the collars are steel. Armor Tool has two different hole dimensions, and all you have to do is unscrew the locking part and flip the piece around and put it back in and tighten it back up. Which is fine because I mostly do production runs, and so this will be set the whole time I'm using it. So the Kreg guides are all plastic except they have a steel sleeve at the top. On Kreg's video it says that their guides are guaranteed for life, but they just canceled production on the K5, so how long is good for life if they come out with a new model and discontinue this? One of the things I do like about the 720 is it does have both hole spacings already set. So all three of your holes are here and you don't have to set up anything. The only other thing I want to mention is how these two clamp their pieces of wood, because it is totally different, just like the drill bit setup. So the 720 clamping mechanism has a little dial that you can adjust how hard it clamps down. It's on some kind of a spring in here, and you just put your piece in and push the lever down. And it holds it real secure. One of the problems I have with this is if I take my straight edge and I almost clamp it, it fits perfect. But once I continue the clamp, this part moves back a little bit from however it's designed inside. I don't know if you can see that, but now my straight edge goes in more than 2 inches. And if I put my hand behind it, you can actually see through there. So I'm not too keen about that, but it does hold it really well. So I don't think it'll affect anything in the drilling process. We'll find out. So the Armor Tool Auto Jig sets up a little bit differently. You put your piece in, you pull the handle forward, you set your collar, and you push it down. Just like that. And there's no gap in here at all. So that's good. And now it's time to go head to head. So I think the best way to do this was I took one piece of wood and cut it in half. So it's the same piece of wood. We'll try to use it like a control. And I put a K on one and an A on the other for Kreg and Armor. We'll drill our pocket holes and then compare them at the end. See how they stack up to each other. Doing this, there's no way that I could fake it or change it at the end to have one better than the other. I'll also use the same drill and the same drill bit. That way there's no confusion on one sharper than the other. I'll do a side-by-side of setup and then drill in the holes, and we'll compare them at the end. And then you can let me know in the comments below which one you think was the best. Okay, we're all done. One thing I should mention is both of these have excellent dust collection. So there's no worry about that on either one of these. And now let's look at some results. And if you look side to side, you'll see the grain lines up perfectly. These are the ones we started with. So turning them up against each other, they look almost identical. Armor has just a little bit more tear out than the Kreg. All 4 of the holes have a little tear out at the bottom. And I guess the grain direction would be opposite of each other. I didn't take that into account. So what it comes down to for me now is just the ease of use. And I think one nudged out the other just by a little bit. And so I think the pocket hole jig that I'm going to keep around the shop and use all the time is Armor Tools Auto Jig. It just nudges out the 720. I think they're both decent. I just don't have a need for both of them right now. And so for now, the Kreg's going to be put away. And I'm going to stick to the Armor Tool Auto Jig. So there's just a couple things that made me nudge out the 720 for the Auto Jig. The first thing is I always mount my pocket hole jigs to a board because I like them clamped down when I'm working. So on the 720, I have to go around the back of it to set the collar. And with Armor Tools Auto Jig, it's right in front of me. So I find that one to be a big plus. And the second reason this one wins me over is because it doesn't matter what your material thickness is, the collar will always be set for the right lumber. Sometimes when you get 3/4 inch plywood, it's not really 3/4. Sometimes you run a 2x4 through the planer and it's not 1.5 inches anymore. So the ease of setting the collar and the preciseness of no matter what your lumber is, that your collar will be the right dimension, those are the 2 things that make the Auto Jig the right tool for my shop. If you got any value out of this video, like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the new content. And if you have an opinion about the Auto Jig, let me know in the comments below. I did reach out to some of the other pocket hole companies, and if they get back to me, we'll have some comparison videos on those as well. And remember to always create and inspire. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.